Good morning, good afternoon for some of you. Thanks for joining today's webinar for Milestone 5. Today we'll be covering Milestone 5, Document Control, and the Plans app. That includes how to create record documents in Document Control. We'll do that from files, we'll do that from a spreadsheet, and we'll do that from the project information link. We'll look at how to issue or send record documents, how to revise the record documents, how to use the document register report, and how record documents appear on InfoExchange, and using the Plans app to access the record documents. So that's your Milestone 5 summary. The course description that is provided to your customers, our customers, for document control and the Plans mobile app indicates that it's a 60-minute web presentation or a 90-minute hands-on presentation. And we tell them that in that session they're going to learn how to manage revisions and issuance of record documents using document control, and that they'll learn how to use the Plans app when in the field to access those record documents. The learning objectives include learning how to create and issue the record documents, learning how to revise the record documents, how to use the document register report, how record documents are seen on InfoExchange, and how to use the Plans mobile app. So everything that's included in your Milestone 5. For the presentation, we'll give you this slide deck, just a couple of slides on this particular class, document control and the Plans mobile app, indicating what we're covering, so the bullet points for your class that we'll go through. And now we'll go ahead and we'll go over and take a look at document control in NPC to start. And so let's go ahead, and I'm going to open up Fowler Square Design. And I'm going to go and open the Document Control Activity Center. And as you can see, currently for the Fowler Square Design project, there aren't any record documents here within the Activity Center. So one of the first things that you'll need to do is add those in. So in our task menu, you can see that I can add a record document. And if I click on that, the form will come up, allowing me to add in one of the documents. Now I can put in a sheet number, perhaps it's A000, and it's a cover sheet. I can put other metadata that's available within the Activity Center. So things such as scale, the discipline, whether it's architectural or MEP. Now this metadata is useful for tracking those sheets, sorting them, distributing them. Disciplines, for example, are useful for distribution if you want to select one specific discipline from the record documents for distribution. So I can indicate that, as well as a number of other options. But all I really need to do is add that number and the title and say OK, and it will create that, that record document right here within document control. Now, what we have at this point is really essentially what I like to refer to as a drawing list. So in the log view, I have one drawing added in the drawing list, one record document. And it's at this point just a document list. I haven't really added anything to it yet. It's not actually a drawing. When I select it, we can see in the revision history below that it's been added as revision 1, and that there's no distribution and there's no related items to that at this time. So for starting off, you add what is essentially a drawing list. Now I can modify this original document, so perhaps I don't want it to be revision 01 to start. So from the tasks I can choose modify, and on that one item I can actually choose to edit that and put it as 01 or whatever the issue would be. I could call it a DD revision, whatever the appropriate revision would be. For the moment I'm going to put it in as 00 just so that it's not carrying a revision number. Now that's one method of adding them, simply by selecting add a record document, and that's added in one for me. Now that won't be efficient for adding hundreds of items into your document control. So if a project will typically have hundreds of drawings from multiple disciplines, and so you're going to have an efficient way to add that in. Now, as in many activity centers, what we do within document control is we give that standard method of being able to modify the log in a spreadsheet. So here on the left, I can edit in a spreadsheet. I also have utilities where I can import a spreadsheet or even export a spreadsheet. So I could export this current spreadsheet, modify it, and import that. But edit spreadsheet is a simple, fast method right here, where if I click that, it's going to open what's currently in the view and allow me to edit that data. I'll save that right into the project at this location. And as with other activity centers, it opens up that information in the spreadsheet in Excel, and then it will allow me to modify it. Now I can drag this down because that's part of setting up that SQL database. And if I have, say, a drawing list that I've been provided for my project, and I'm just going to cut this and move it down. I'll move it to 100 here. So now, if I actually have a drawing list that someone on the project has provided me, perhaps as part of a contract, I can then add that in. So I've added one here on the desktop. I may have been emailed that, or it may have been added to the project folder by a project manager. I can then come in and select those items, copy those, and then paste those right in from that list that I've been given into that spreadsheet. And then I'm going to move this up. Now I may choose to go ahead and add on this other information as well, since I already know that that's going to be a part of the information. So Control-C, and I'll just put that in for the others as well. I might as well, since I'm here in the spreadsheet. And I'll scroll over. Now you can see there's a revision number. I don't necessarily need to include the revision number at this point. Revision date and the information related to the document that's been created, which will be created when we import the spreadsheet. I want to save that, and I want to go ahead and close it. Close this one as well. And now it's asking me if I want to import that data. I'll say yes. If I don't have any errors, it will let me know and it will successfully import. If I've missed something, of course, as you've seen, sometimes that occurs, then you just have to go back and update based on whatever it tells you you left out. I'll say OK, and now I have that full list based on that import. You can see no revision numbers, no revision dates on these items. And so now what I have is essentially a drawing list for the documents that I want to manage within document control. So I want to issue my construction drawings, my tender drawings, and manage the various versions using document control, because it gives me one single location to manage the issuance and distribution of those and view the various versions, the various revisions over the life of a project. And this is a really tricky thing for firms to manage, so document control gives them a really sound way to manage that all in one place. and then know who's downloaded what, etc. Now, there is a third way to add this in. So we've added one manually. We've added additional ones by editing in a spreadsheet, or we could do the same thing by excuse me, importing a spreadsheet. And the third really common way is to actually link the Revit model sheets into document control. And what that does, it helps keep Newforma consistent with what's being managed within the model and vice versa. Now, if I'm going to do that, since I've already created these, I won't be able to import those in on duplicate numbers. So it's important to note that if you're going to link to Revit and you've got the drawings linked in, you can't have duplicate numbers. It won't recognize the one that I already have in because it's not linked to the model. So in order to link the model, I have to actually do that initially. So if I'm going to choose to use the project information link, then I actually want to select that process. So I'm going to delete these, and then I'm going to go over to Revit, and we're going to link in a set of drawings from the drawing list from Revit. And so within Revit, I have the Newforma add-in, the product information link, and I'll choose here in document control just a simple synchronize sheets. Now, within Revit, with the product information link, it will give you the option to sync all of the sheets that are in the project model that you have open. Now, I can choose to synchronize all of those, or I could filter down. If I just wanted sheets perhaps with A in it, I could filter those, so my GA, maybe I don't want this, and I can unselect that. It gives me that option, how I want to manage it, but I can go ahead and even just bring in all. So there's some additional plumbing and electrical and structural sheets as well. It's my option on what to synchronize. I'll synchronize all by selecting synchronize. And now it synchronizes this model into Newforma. Now I should add that some steps have already been taken that we will cover during the building information management session that goes into linking your models. It's not a complex process, but we're not actually going into that at the moment. The technical team will have this linked and be able to link these sheets in. And I just want to show you that that capability exists without going into building information management. Now that I refresh the screen, you can see that these individual sheets now are related to a Revit model. And so that shows up here in the document control. And I can now manage these sheets in the same way as if I had added it from an individual, adding an individual one, or adding it through a spreadsheet. So 3 really sound ways to bring that data in and manage it into document control. Now the next step, once you have your drawing list in document control, is to actually link the issued drawings to it. Now typically the drawings are issued in a format that can't be altered. So a PDF or a DWF, it doesn't matter what format, but most commonly for issuing the drawings and specifications, those are published in a non-editable format, PDF being quite common. So to add those to the set, what I will do is add revisions from files. And by selecting on add revisions from files, it brings up this dialog, and it shows the drawings that are here within document control. So I can scroll through those and see them. And you can see that when I'm doing this, it's automatically applying a 0-1. Now that 0-1 may not be the revisions that I want. So I can select on one or more of the items from within document control and make modifications to those. So I can select and then make a change. So if I wanted those to, for example, be 0-0, I can put in 0-0, and it's going to modify that. Perhaps this is a DD issuance. I can indicate that it's a DD or schematic design issuance, whatever that is. In this case, I will call it a DD issuance. We make that uppercase. And now all of the documents that are here that might be updated when I add new sheets are indicated as DD. Now I can also change the dates on those drawings, but I want to go ahead and first add in the documents. So let me add files or a folder. And so I'm going to choose to add a folder. And so here we have a DD folder for published drawings from the Revit model. So they published out a set of PDFs, placed them into a folder, and I'm linking those in to add revisions for files so that I can link those to the listed record documents that I have here in new forma within document control. Now, at the moment, nothing has linked, so I still haven't linked. You can see that it indicates on the status for the sheets that it's missing. Nothing has been added in. I can choose to auto-link, and it will look within the number and title to see if it can find a match between the actual PDF name. If it can, it will update those. So in this case, by using the auto-link, it is matched up 44 of those record documents automatically, and I can select OK. I can check those for accuracy. If I had additional files, which in this instance I don't, I could drag in additional files just as a PDF without associating it to one of the other files. I can also drag down one of the files and associate it with one of the records that are here, simply dragging it down and selecting the related drawing, and it will link that way if the auto link doesn't work. And we have advanced linking as well, which we'll take a look at in just a moment. But so I've gone ahead, added those in. They indicate that they're changed. And we have ones that are missing. We're only going to be updating the ones that are changed. So I'll go ahead. DD is appropriate for those. If I want to change the issue date, I can. It's picking up the date that was in the drawing. And so 6/10/2010, I could go ahead and change that for the drawings if I want to. So I could filter now for the changed, select all of those, and drop down and choose a different date. So if that was from June of 2011, let's say that was June 3rd in 2011, and that's my issue date, then that will become the date that we have selected for that issuance. Okay. And so I can include other information on it, such as prefixes or suffixes to the numbers if we need to track something separate from a revision number. But it's not necessary to add those in for tracking these because the revision number itself is trackable in its own metadata item, so its own item. It's not necessary to do that as part of the actual number, but if you're using suffixes for other purposes, say you want to have multiple sheets with the same number and perhaps some are issuing DWG files as backgrounds, you can also manage those in document control. You would just need to have some type of prefix or suffix on those, and you can manage that right here within adding revisions from files as well. So I'm going to go ahead and add the ones that we brought in, and it's going to update within document control to now associate. You'll see that we have icons now associated with these drawings, and they're showing that they're not distributed. And what that means is they're here within document control, but they haven't been issued as a set yet. So this hasn't been issued. It doesn't have to be issued. It could stay here forever in a non-distributed format. It does not need to be officially issued externally to the project team. But for tracking purposes, if I want to create a record copy of these that I maintain within new form as record copies and distribute these to the team, I can do that simply by selecting the ones that haven't been distributed. We'll scroll down, you can see we have the ones that we haven't distributed, plus sheets that haven't had, plus drawings in our log that haven't had, or record documents that actually haven't had hard copies, electronic copies, excuse me, associated with them. So those are here as well. Now I can filter down to what's not been distributed, and I can then select all of those. And over here on the left, to issue them, I simply select issue that revision, either the latest revision, or I can select a revision. Now I only have the DD, so I can indicate that I'm going to go ahead and issue that. But before I do that, I want to show you what it's going to look like out on InfoExchange, because it's going to look differently for individuals at different times. Now we haven't issued these, and we're logged in as Howard Rourke. Now he is an internal user, and he has access rights on InfoExchange to view the project. With full rights to record documents. Now on InfoExchange, once we've issued the documents, it's no longer called document control. Once they're issued, it's actually called record documents, because we're not providing the document control activity center. What we're doing is we are providing a way to view the record documents. Now I've got some old drafts that haven't been deleted, it appears. So these sheets, it looks like I might have a little bit of an error here in the demo because it is showing some issued drawings. Let me think about this. That's because I'm in the wrong project. All right, well, let me correct that then. So let me go over to the correct project, Fowler Square, and view, Fowler Square Design, and view those record documents. Okay, and so here's what I wanted to show you. So the difference here is Howard's logged in on InfoExchange, and he can actually see the drawings that have not yet been distributed, and they're even available to him. He can select that link and view these drawings. Now this is unique for internal users. Only an internal user is going to have this capability where they can see the drawings and access them if they have not yet been distributed. Bob Welder is on the project. We can select Fowler Square Design. When he comes on to view them, he does not even have access to record drawings. So for this project, he can't even access them because it hasn't been provided to him. So in order to enable that within the project, one of the administrators that have the rights to modify the settings for the project team members would need to actually change that for Bob. So I'm going to go out of document control for a moment, and we'll look at project team, because it's project team that's going to relate to how individuals have access to information on InfoExchange, and that includes your record documents that are issued through document control. So for Bob, we can take a look at him, and if we select on project roles and permissions, we can view, and we can see that he does have web access to the project. He's on the project team, so he has access, but his permission set is an external user. Now if I select that and I go down to record documents, you can see that for that permission set, external user, it indicates do not show any record documents. So with record documents, it's an all or nothing option. A user is given rights to view all record documents, or they are not given rights to view the record documents. And that simply means that they won't have access to record documents to see that most current set on InfoExchange, or to be able to use the apps for the plans. and we'll be looking at the Plans app in a moment. Now, so if I want to provide Bob with access, I would need to change his permission set. Now, on this project, they've created a trusted consultant permission set, and if we look at that, we can see that it provides access to record documents. So it shows here that they have access to that. So I can close that, update Bob to consultant trusted, and now Bob should have access to that on InfoExchange. Let me see if I can simply refresh. I may have to log out. Sorry, just checking a message to make sure someone's not telling me they can't hear me. Okay, so now if I go to view, it's not showing Fowler Square Design. Let me sign him out. Sometimes it's necessary to sign in and sign out. Fowler Square Design and view, and now record documents appears. So he now has access to those. When he selects on them, he can see that there are some that have not been distributed, but no, he does not have access to them. He cannot select those because they have not been distributed yet. But it does indicate that there is a set that's been added, but not yet distributed. Okay, so let's go back now into the project, into document control. And let's actually issue those, because we've shown that the team doesn't have access to them because they haven't been distributed. Not all users necessarily have to have access through record documents or the Plans app. So we'll want to issue those to individuals on the project team. I'm still filtered to not distributed. So those are the drawings that I haven't distributed. I'm going to select all of those. I'll select on one and say Control All. Now I have all of those documents selected that I'm filtering to, and I'm going to go ahead and issue those now. So issue, I'm going to select the DD, and it's going to allow me to do the transfer via InfoExchange. And so now this starts to integrate in to InfoExchange. Now, of course, I could choose a different method, but InfoExchange is really the appropriate way here to indicate that. And it's going to go ahead and load those in. And let's see if it's done it yet. Yeah, it has. And so here we have the form. And just like with the standard file transfer for InfoExchange, I'm issuing record documents. My required information includes who it's to, what the subject is, and the files, which have already been associated as we selected those in document control. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to send those to Bob. I'm going to CC Howard, and I'm going to come down and I'll indicate that these are the design development drawings. Maybe I'll just call them DD drawings. And for review and comment. And we're going to issue that via InfoExchange. Again, we could do that in another format, but InfoExchange is practical for issuing all of those electronic files. If I have remarks, I can indicate that this is whatever that is. This is the DD drawings for review and comment, or whatever I need to indicate. And I'll go ahead and note that there's no need for XREFs on this, so nothing sending out on that. If it were DWGs, it could include those as well for the entire set, and that it's going to save that record copy in our standard outgoing location that we've indicated for the project, and it'll include that transmittal. I'm going to go ahead and create and transfer this. And in the case of issuing record drawings, tender drawings in particular, where it has gone out to the entire, the entire team is typically involved in that. That is a time where I will usually choose all project team members so that everyone on the project has access to those. Now, it's going to depend on the requirements of the project, but it's quite common when issuing the construction drawings and specifications to make those available to the entire team. Now, this doesn't mean that everyone has access to record documents. It merely means that this file transfer can be viewed on InfoExchange in the File Transfers Activity Center on the project web page, and that they can choose to download it if they want to. So it would give them the access. Now, I can clamp down and just share it with the fellow company members of anyone that's listed on the transmittal, but I'm going to go ahead and make it available to everyone. And I'm going to allow them to download partial contents. And since this is a long-term record, I'm actually going to leave it on InfoExchange for the life of the project. I won't actually choose to let those be removed. I could for the DD at some point; they won't be needed, but I just like to have that record available in case someone wants to do a comparison. So I'll choose for this project to leave it there. And I can choose, of course, the notifications and reminders. No need in this case. I could even choose logins if required, and if needed, if this were, say, a set that was going to be used for bidding, I could hide the recipient list so that individuals that are being sent this set would not be able to see who else is on the transfer. I'll go ahead and hit OK now that I'm done making those selections and say OK. It's going to print that transmittal form out, indicating what we've sent. It's going to list all of those drawings on it. And now you can see that for that issued DD set, it indicates issued. And now the project team will see that information on InfoExchange. When they log onto the project web page, they can see that it's issued. And an external team member such as Bob, when he goes and logs on next time and goes to the record documents, he will see that current issued set. And so that maintains that current set in one location, whatever that most current set is. We can see, for example, if we switch over to Alpengrove, that current set will show up as long as he has access. Or he doesn't have access on that one. Let me see if he has Fowler Square Construction. Okay, then he's just clamped down on, with the exception of Fowler Square Design. But looking at Bob then on InfoExchange, and then switching to Alpengrove, looking at Howard, I mean. So if Bob had access, he would then be able to see that current set with all the various versions. So you can see the variety of versions that are issued. And Fowler Square Construction, excuse me, let me try that again. Fowler Square Construction, viewing those record documents, again, you're able to see that most current set. And so here we can see it's showing the various revisions. And so the versions and revisions that are issued are tracked, and that full history then becomes available. It's going to show when it was issued. I can see who it was issued to. I can see what issues were sent and when for this set. So that full history then becomes available for tracking, and we're able to see who's downloaded what as well, who we sent it to, and who actually downloaded it. Let me just check here. Any questions at this point? Let me take a look. I don't see any questions. I don't see any hands raised, but we're going to move on with it now. If you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand or just send me a message. Okay, so no questions at the moment. Let me go now to back to document control. So we've issued that set, And each time now it becomes an easy method. Now, we may have changes at some point requested by the client. And so the integration that we've done here, where we're linking this to the Revit model, allows us to also manage information right here within Newforma. So if for some reason there was a change, I can actually choose to edit this, make a modification to it, and synchronize it over into Revit. Now, of course, I want to ensure that I have the titles matched up within Newforma, and I can see these, yes, indeed, the title is. Any property that I'm mapping needs to actually be linked in. So, for example, the sheet number needs to actually be imported into Newforma from the Revit model. So I'm going to indicate what that sheet number is. And then that ensures that that's synchronizing. And it's importing into Newforma, but I can choose to export from Newforma as well. Now I have those linked, I'll synchronize, and it's going to synchronize the title and the number. Now there's no changes, but I know now that Newforma and Revit is synchronized. And if I make a modification, for example, let's say level 1 was going to change to ground level. I can then use the spreadsheet to modify that information. So using the tools within Excel are sometimes far more efficient than managing this information within Revit. Or perhaps you want a non-Revit user to manage data from your BIM without going into Revit, then it can be managed here. So I can find and replace. And if I wanted to, for example, change level 1 to ground level, let's say, then I can go ahead and find all those and then replace those. I'm just going to say replace all, and it quickly goes through and updates all of those. I'll just close that. So a very quick way for anything that said level 1, it's changed it now to ground level. Now I can close and save this, and once I do that, Newforma asks if I want to update that. And then I close that, it goes through that spreadsheet, does that update, gives me a confirmation that it's done it. And then I can see now that from level 1 it went to ground level, and now that data can be synchronized into the Revit model to retain that fidelity and to help manage that in a different way. So now I'll synchronize that in. I'll need to ensure that I'm pointing it in the right direction. So I actually need to change this, the actual title. So edit settings and title, instead of importing that into Newforma, I now want to export that from Newforma. And now I can synchronize and update the drawing names here within Revit, so that those are no longer indicating level 1, but that they're indicating ground level. So update accomplished, and keeping that synchronization for that data and allowing me to keep consistency for what sheets are available within document control. So it's a two-way method where we can populate information in the Revit model, including blank sheets. So when we saw earlier, when I added that drawing list from a spreadsheet, if those did not exist in Revit, then I can add those into Revit. But once they already exist in the Revit model, I cannot synchronize those with the list here. And since I already had these sheets in the Revit model, bringing those into document control would work, so I deleted out that list. But if it doesn't exist in the model, we can populate from Newforma as well, and then they can simply drag on the views to the individual sheets. So it provides a way to help manage that data that we know is being specified in a contract scope, and put that into the bin for covering that. Now I've got a question, so let me see. Can you overwrite a revision number once documents are issued? You can. It will allow you to make modifications to them. I don't know why you'd want to do that. Perhaps you realize that you made a mistake, so perhaps this somehow changed. I can select on an item, and then I can choose to modify that. And it gives me the ability to go in and make changes to it. I suppose because you might perhaps make a modification to it that you didn't mean to. I have to choose Edit Revision and then actually change that. So if I wanted that to be 01. Now if I save that though, it's going to undo the issuance of the set that's already gone out. So it would actually require that I reissue the set. I would have to, it would basically note that I've made this modification. It doesn't synchronize now with the archived set, and it would require that I back up and reissue the set to keep consistency. So it's not simply going, it maintains a level of quality control on that. So I can't just change it without having some follow through on what's actually been issued. So it's not full flexibility, and that is really a quality assurance that's built into the system. And of course, if I haven't issued them, then I can change that prior to issuing, so that wouldn't be an issue. But once it's gone out and been issued, it's going to require me to undo, and then I would have to reissue the DD and then issue that one separate sheet that isn't a part of it separately. So if I now decided that I needed to issue this as 01, I would probably leave these as DD since I have in fact issued them, and issue that as a revision. That would be an appropriate protocol, and that's frankly why the protocol exists. So let me know, let me see, did I answer that? Will it have a record of change? It will. It's actually going to indicate that I've made a modification to it. That's a good question. In the change log. So that's an excellent point. Let me close that. So once I make a modification, it shows up in our change log. So when I create and when I modify those, it indicates the revision DD added and the revision DD issued. If I now make that additional modification, it's going to reflect that in any affected documents in the change log. So for each record item here, record document within document control, it tracks that revision history, and as we add subsequent issues, it shows up. So let's use, for example, a revision from files. And now we go in and we add that folder. So again, from the Revit model, the team has published to a folder. That's the appropriate protocol. They publish to a PDF or DWF. Uforma does not automate that process for them. They still do that from the batch publishing within the native programs such as Revit. And now we can select a new set. So in this case, for bidding, so I'm going to go ahead and indicate OK for that folder. Now it's going to add the documents that are linked, and it's added a 01. Now I don't want that to issue as 01. This is a bid set, so that bid set isn't actually going to be a revision yet. So I want to filter that now down. Let me see. This is showing all that are linked. There are some that are unlinked now. So I have a few here like this M201 and A961. Now, I may have a sheet that relates to it. If it's already a part of my set, I can simply drag it down and link it to a file. If I release this, it will link it to the actual drawing, but I don't want to do that because it doesn't exist. I could choose to simply add this individual file, so I can say create, and that will bring it in, and I will have to modify the metadata for it because it's going to bring it in with the data that's a part of the name. So I'll choose to create that, and you'll see that it's not named properly. It's going to show up. It shows up in here somewhere. Let me see where that is from added. So there it is. It's not named in that same convention, but by selecting on an item, you can choose to create. So that is also a way to add drawings into the set. It's not the most efficient method, so it's not one that I usually employ or recommend. And so, because you're going to have to go back now and make modifications to the data because it's simply dragging in and putting in that name for the number here without title information. So to keep consistency with the requirements for the office, the scope typically that's dictated by a contract or by other agreement with a client, you're going to want to bring that in typically first, but it does give you that option to bring it in. And I can also do advanced linking. So now I can choose my missing sheets, and I'll filter to those. And when I select on those, I can choose advanced linking. So if it's not auto linking, I choose auto link, and it found 18 automatically, but there are still a few that aren't linked. Okay, so it did find a few more. These are still the missing ones. I've got those selected. I can choose advanced linking. So auto link won't link anymore. Now I can Control A, and I now have an option to use advanced linking. See how I'm doing here? Okay, good. And advanced linking will let me utilize a prefix or suffix. So if it just can't recognize, for whatever reason, something within the name, I can choose a couple of formats, a custom prefix where I can indicate some data in it. Maybe I've got part of the name that's messing it up. So perhaps Fowler Square is part of that prefix that's messing up the drawing, and it can't get past that to find the document number. I can include that, apply that pattern, and it will look through. Now in this case, no, it's not finding it, so that doesn't work in this case. But the advanced linking gives an additional layer of searching through those drawing titles to find that information. So it allows you to look through it a little bit more deeply. And then ultimately, if you can't, well, that could simply be because it doesn't exist. I'm going to filter now to S's. S106, I can see it doesn't exist. S210, I can see it doesn't exist. Now, if it did, again, I can come down and simply drag and relate it to the document and release it. But they don't exist. Again, I can now choose to create those documents, or I can choose to add those in later. I can simply finish up with what I have and add more in later. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clear this filter. And now I can see all the changed and the missing. Now I want to filter to the changed because I want to control, and the added filter. I want to control those revision numbers. So Control A. It's important that I do that before I issue them. And I want to put in that 00. Excuse me, wrong one. 00 is the format that I'm going to use for a non-revision. It's the official set now, the tender set, the bid set for the construction drawings, and indicate what that date is going to be. Now 6/11, November 6th in this case is what it's picking up, and that's okay because the last time I had a June date, so I'll leave that. It's picking that up from the drawing files themselves, but I could choose to override that if there was a date that varied. Let me bring that down. So if for some reason we actually wanted it to be April 6th, let's say, we can go ahead and modify that, and you see that all of our set is now April 6th, revision 00. Again, if I had a prefix or a suffix that I needed to include, I could add that here as well. I'm going to go ahead and add these sheets now into the set. Wait a minute. Nope. Actually, I'm not. Let me check now, actually. I just noticed I still had the S's filtered to, so let me make sure that I've got all of those changed. No, I don't. So that is going to be 4/6. So Control A. Okay, change all of those. Again, check it. And if I had added that, didn't notice that mistake, once I added it, I would notice it here. I would probably notice it here within the document control. I would notice that I had different dates right away, I think. And so what that would then require is that I would actually have to modify those. Now I could choose to actually delete that revision, so I could choose that set that hasn't yet been distributed, and I could select all of them and delete that latest revision, or I could choose to make a modification to them. And one way of doing that is to select all of them, and we've seen this in other activity centers. When you select, you can right-click and you can choose to change field values. So if I were to choose to change the revision date, let me see if it's going to let me. Is that an option? I think it is. No, it's not. The revision date isn't one. But if I wanted to, for example, change that discipline, this is how I can do it. So indicating what the discipline is. Excuse me. And so by using that change field values, it will update it. Now let me see. I'm not sure if there's any other way without going in and making a modification in the record document control. No, I don't see one. So I would then have to actually I would remove those and then add those back in so that I can do it all at once as a batch using add revisions from files. It doesn't mean that there's not another way. It just means that that's what I'm accustomed to when I look at this, is using that format. And since it's not available as an option in the change field values, and I don't see any other method to modify it, I would then go ahead and back up and just re-add those from the file. Now I can choose an individual item and modify that. So if I want to modify that information, as we saw previously with changing a revision, we can. And I see an issue with it right there. So the actual number itself is not correct. So this will happen on some occasions as you're doing it. So I can see I have 0, 0, and 0, 1. Now that's not appropriate. So I can filter to the 0, 1s, not distributed, Control A, and if I don't have a method to modify that here, and I don't know that it does, no, let me see, related model, prefix, suffix, last revision ID, no, nope, I don't see it. So then I will have to make a modification to that. So let's see, I look in tasks, I don't see a method to do it. So I could perhaps edit this in a spreadsheet. So that would be another alternative. So if I come over, the view that I've filtered to will show up in the spreadsheet if I choose edit in spreadsheet. So I'll go ahead and open it that way. So rather than deleting all of them, since I have half and half, I can open that, and now it's showing the sheets that are filtered in that view. I know that I want that to be the 0, 0. And now that's been updated, and let's close it and save it and see if I've done that appropriately. It says it's been updated. Do I want to re-import? So as long as there's not a conflict for some unknown reason within it for the metadata, it will update it. Now it's indicated that it's updated. And now when I refresh, well, you can see I don't even have to refresh. Just right away, that's the 0, 1 no longer exists. I can clear all of it. Let me just clear that one. And so now we can see for the not distributed sheets, all of them now are the 0, 0. So you can see the usefulness in terms of the different tools that are provided to manage this information. And so in that case, the spreadsheet helped correct that error. And now with the sheets that haven't been distributed, check and see if there's any questions. Good. Now the sheets that haven't been distributed, we can go ahead and distribute again. Howard, of course, again, when he goes into the project, Fowler Square Design, when he looks at the record documents, he will see that there is a set called 00 that has not been distributed. Because he is internal, he can view that current sheet. An external user would be able to see that a 00 is pending but has not been distributed, and they would not have access to the link. So let's go ahead and issue those out. 00, Control A, everything that's not distributed. And I can issue selected record documents, and I can choose that revision. So if there were more than one that I wanted to issue, I can go ahead and provide that. Now, perhaps I want to go ahead and actually distribute this to someone for review, but not distribute it. In that case, what I can choose is Info Exchange and Transfer Only. Now, it will take that entire set and allow me to send it to someone. So, for example, I could send that over to Bob and let him know this is our bid set. So bid set for review, and just ask him to review it. And it shows those files, and it's going to save a record copy of what I'm sending to him, unless I don't want to. And then I can go ahead and transfer that over to him. It's going to give him that set. Now I won't bother making that doing that transaction. You get the idea. It could even be sent, by the way, as an email. So if we wanted to send it via email, we could do that. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel that. And that would be email and send attachments. I could send it as a link so that it doesn't actually include all of them. So this would be too many. But to an individual who's not even on the project team, I could simply send them an email with all of the links, and that would enable them to click on the link to download those. However, when using email, it will not, even though I'm providing a link, it will not give me a download history. So one of the advantages here is that when someone does download, we're able to see that history, and we're able to see that full revision history. Let's go ahead and issue this set. You can say latest revision. It's going to add those drawing files in. I'll send it to Bob. I'll make it available to the whole project team. It's the bid drawings, tender drawings. So it's the full issue. We'll save that record copy, and I'll go ahead and create and transfer that. I won't bother looking at the transmittal. We'll just go ahead and send that out. We'll make it available to the whole project team. We won't remove it. We'll let them download partial contents if they want, and no notifications and reminders required for this. So it's being issued out. We'll have a record copy, and now it's been distributed, so I can clear that. We can see that it has in fact been issued. Any new sheets that were added are going to show up. They won't show that same history. You can see the change log now, revision DD, revision 1 added, discipline modified, revision 00 issued. So every change, even when we made that error and saved it as a revision 1, it reflects that that change was made by Howard, where he changed the discipline, and it was now revision 00 issued. So, oh no, that was revision 1 added, discipline modified, and revision 0 added. So, so it's not, it didn't actually show that change, actually, if you'll note that. It shows revision 1 added. I modified that discipline. At some point I did change it to 0, but it didn't show. It showed only when I issued that revision 00. So not total. In that case, since I did it through the spreadsheet, it did not pick that change up. So not necessarily 100%. But nonetheless, once it was issued, it shows what it went out at. So there is, you know, a reasonable degree of tracking on that. Okay, and there we see, for example, one that's issued as 00 and hadn't been issued prior, so we can see that full history there. Now note on this one, we never changed that number information, so it was actually issued that way. We would want to modify that, and so by selecting on that to modify, I can come in and now update that so that I put in the appropriate number, and whatever that sheet title is, I would have to open it and look at it to view that. So casework and millwork details. No changes on any of this, and we'll just say OK. And that has updated now that drawing name and number here within the register. Now, because we haven't changed the revision number, because we have not changed that association, it's not detaching it. So that will update within the document controls so that what everyone is viewing is current with this, and the associated file remains. So it's not actually modifying that information. I want to see here, does it indicate? I'm not sure if it will indicate that change. It does indicate that I just modified it. It doesn't indicate specifically what I did, but it is tracking that I had made a modification to it. And so that's the advantage of having it here within document control. We had the wrong number and name. The drawing file itself was correct, but now when the project team goes to it, immediately they see that current drawing. So if they're looking for that 901, it will show up, and it will show up with that appropriate title as well. Well, if it's been issued, I'm not sure. Fowler Square Design, or maybe I have to put an A. I think it was 901. Let me look here. My mistake. No, 961, excuse me. And there it is. So casework and millwork details. So that keeps the team on the same page. Here on Info Exchange, within the office, for what's being distributed in document control, being able to see that full revision history of what's been issued, who it's been issued to, and I can quickly generate a report for this. Now, of course, we know from prior training sessions, and let me just check for questions. No questions, but feel free to ask at any time. But we know from our training on prior sessions that we can generate a log report at any time. So I can just simply choose to create a report and generate a log report based on the settings that I have here in my log view. Now, document control provides another method for viewing that information. Now, if I want to see who has downloaded my DD set or this tender set, I actually would need to go to Info Exchange and view that history. And by selecting on the outgoing transfers, oh, I already had a filter here. Let me see. Let me clear those. So by filtering to outgoing transfers, I can see there's that tender drawing issue. There's that history. Now, no one's downloaded it yet. And here's the DD drawings. No one's downloaded it yet. But if an individual goes in and actually chooses to view one of those, whoops, that's actually just going to show me the history. But if I choose that 00 version and take a look at it, it will open up on Info Exchange. Whether I'm internal or external, it will allow me to do a markup of it. Okay, but the key here is that I've now downloaded it so that that information now is going to show for anyone that's downloaded one of the files. So tender drawings, that was 00. this actually, let me think, if I got the right one here, let me look at the date. The issue with that is that this only shows when I downloaded the whole set. And to view, and this is actually something that drives me a little bit crazy, which is why our new method for reporting on this is most useful. I can actually go into document sets because it's treating one as the whole file transfer and the other one is document control. And what that was 961. A partial download, let me think now, shows up. I don't even remember where, I apologize, but the full download shows up in the file transfers info exchange. A partial download I don't think is showing up there, so let me take a look here. Yeah, it's not. It's only going to show that full download. And it does show, I'm just blanking out on where it's going to show me. It's one of the peculiarities, one of the unique ways that document control works is that it uses info exchange for that full file transfer, and then it's utilizing document control to manage the various versions. So there is a little bit of difference with this particular activity center. So now let me go back to document control. So now we've added those revisions. We know that we've provided access to them on Info Exchange. One of the other places that we have the ability to provide access to those, oh, I'm sorry, before I move on, that other report is here within document control. So I did want to show you that. So in addition to the log report, I can choose the document register report. Now the document register report is very useful because as you can see within the Activities Center, because of that dual method of managing information, file transfers, electronic file transfers being managed in Info Exchange, and managing the actual versions of the documents here within document control. There's two separate places for getting the information, but to see a full download of what has been sent, we have a tool now called the Register Report. So I can come in and view every issue. So here for the set that we've issued today, we can see that on 7/21/13, we issued this DD set. Okay, and it shows down what DD drawings there were. So next to each one within it, within the log, within that register report, it indicates next to the drawing what's been issued, what the number was. So DD and 0, we had additional sheets that were added for our tender set. And down at the bottom, I see what the comment was in terms of what we included from our drop-down, and the I indicating that it's gone out on Info Exchange and who it was. Now this distribution list is quite small because we've only chosen Bob Welder, but typically you'll have many users on this for those distributions. But what it does is it gives one simple way of showing who that set was issued to. Now it isn't indicating the downloads here. It is simply showing what who it was issued to. Just want to see if I've got any other information here. I haven't actually looked at these tabs, so I'm looking at them with you just to see. So that's just what's mapping in on those others. And so if I actually want to do a report on who has downloaded the files, I actually have to go now to Info Exchange. But to show who the distribution has gone to and any mapped metadata in it, that will show up as well. We haven't mapped those in yet, but we certainly can. So I'll close that. And let me take a look here. I just want to check where we're at on document control. Our next issue is to look at the Plans app. So let me just take a look at my notes here. I want to make sure that I've covered everything on document control. Okay, and so now we've seen that on Info Exchange we can provide access. We've seen Howard's access to the project for Fowler Square Design, where he can go in and view that entire set. We saw how we gave Bob, an external user, access as well. Now, if an individual is being given access to the Activity Center for record documents, then they also have another option. They can choose to use the Plans app. And the Plans app is nice because accessing the drawings here requires that I have an internet connection. I have to have an internet connection, and I can select on the drawing to download or open it. But within the app, I can actually access it on the web. So let me go back to my slides for a minute. I'd like to go through it with you. So the Plans mobile app, let's do an introduction before we look at the live tool. So what it does is it takes those project documents, the record documents that we have issued from document control on Info Exchange, and it makes those available, the most current ones related to a given project, and automatically delivers those to the iPad. And you can zoom and pan the documents quickly, and you can mark them up and email those markups as well right from that device. So from that tablet, and with the Plans app, it's only the iPad or iPad mini. It's an iOS for the iPads. You can use that tool, and to get started, you'll need to have document control in place with the linked PDFs. So it's got to have those revisions that have been issued for drawings and specifications. You'll need to be on the project team. If you're not on the project team, you won't have access. And you'll need to have Info Exchange access, including to record documents. If you don't have access to record documents, you won't be able to access them on the app. Now, you've got to go and download the app. So from your store, you can go and search Newforma and find the Newforma Plans app. Choose to download that. And once you do, when you open it, it's going to ask you to sign in. So it's like signing into Info Exchange, except that in order to use the apps, it is required that you use Newforma ID. Let me bring up, I'm not seeing my, I want to make sure that if there's any questions, I can see them. So give me just a moment here. Bring up the toolbar. Okay, good. All right, so continuing on, you have to log in using Newforma ID. Now, Newforma ID is a free service. You select on Create a Newforma ID, and it will take you to an integrated tool right within the app so that you simply put in your email and put in some basic information like your name. It doesn't cost anything. And once you've signed up, that will become your Newforma ID. Now, you'll need to authenticate for any project that you're on. So you can then select to add projects once you're signed in, and it will allow you to search for projects by company. So you search for a company, and once you find it, you select it. It will require you to input your credentials for that particular website. So if you're coming to the Newforma Info Exchange website, for example, you would need to connect to Newforma, my company, if you were using ours, for example, and you would then need to put in your credentials for that, and it will keep that in the history so that you don't have to, you only have one login for every company that you work with. So that's a huge advantage for it. And even if you're only working with one company, you would need to use Newforma ID in order to enable the apps. Okay, so we'll do that, and then once we log in on the company site, we select a project, and it will start to update and show us the list. So it's syncing the plan list. So right here, syncing that plan list. And once it finishes loading the plan list, I can select on one of the drawings. You can see the download icon, and it will start downloading that drawing. And then once it's downloaded, it will process it so that it gives a faster, well, an instantaneous viewing of it. If you don't allow it to process it the very first time, it won't be instantaneous in the future. So that's the user's option. And if I wanted to, I could choose download all, and that would allow me to download all of these plans just at once so that I have that entire current set. And then I can select on a drawing, and it gives me a preview of it, and I just select it anywhere on that drawing, and it will open it up. And of course, I have my editing tools at the top. I can use my fingers to pinch and zoom in. So I zoom in with my editing tools at the top. I can then make edits right on it in the app. And then over on the right, it gives me a little icon that I can select on to then email that out. So that's just a common symbol within the iPad to go ahead and email that out. It saves an image of it, and I can put in anyone from my contacts list, and I can include to CC into the project web address, and it will automatically file that within the project. And I can save that markup then within the project, within the app, so that it's available to me, so that in the future I'm able to see those markups. And if I'm finished or no longer want a particular drawing, I can remove it by simply selecting the trash can. Anytime a new revision is released, I will get a yellow update icon. Now there's a difference between it's never been downloaded versus a yellow icon that indicates that there is a revision. So revisions are highlighted differently, and it indicates that there's one revision. So those show up automatically for a user, and I can choose to download all of those or just an individual one. So it keeps me current on what the updates are. So I always have a current set of drawings on my device. And even if I don't have an internet connection, I have those drawings available. So it's quite useful. I can connect to more projects by coming here and selecting the connect to more projects, and again go through that process where I add a company and select the projects from that company and do the appropriate login for that company. Now, we know that we have InfoExchange access as well. That's possible, but it requires the internet connection, and it doesn't allow me to have those drawings when I'm not connected to the web. It's a simple individual download of those. Markups of the PDFs are not possible on the iPad because our markup tools on InfoExchange are Java-based. So if they want to mark up on a tablet, on an Apple tablet, then they will actually need to use the app. So there is a difference between those two devices. Both in that the tablet allows you to have all the drawings and allows you to mark up on the tablet. But as you can see, it does provide access to the project via InfoExchange, so it's a very good tool. So let's go over now, and I'll just give you a little introduction to using the tablet device. Let me do a little minimizing here. Okay, there we go. And so here we have, this is actually coming from, let me see, that's as big as it gets. And so from a tablet device, I can select any app that I have available. Now, Newforma provides four. They provide plans, project teams, punch list, and field notes. That's a prior version of punch list for any InfoExchange that may be on a prior version. but I'm using the current version for Alpengrove, so I'm going to select the Plans app here, and then that opens up, and it's going to show me a list of the projects that I already am connected to. I'll select the Alpengrove project, and it's going to show me a list of all of those drawings, so you can see the drawing list. So coming directly from the record documents that have been issued, and I can select any drawing, view a preview, and once I select that, I can come over here and select on the drawing itself, and it opens up, and I simply use a pinching process that's common to the tablets to zoom in or out. So I just am taking and pinching on the screen to zoom in and out, and I can just move it around with my finger, and it's this fast. Once it's been downloaded and processed once, it goes very quick. And of course, at the top, I have those markup tools, so if I see some issue, I can go ahead and select one of the tools. I'll select the cloud tool, and I can simply draw a cloud around something to indicate that there is some concern about it right while I'm in the field looking at it. And then by selecting on that icon to transfer that, I can choose that. It will save that image into an email for me, and it's automatically CCing into the project file, and I can put anyone who's on that project, simply select them and add them to it. I don't know if I have Howard on this, so any individual, maybe I'll do Mark. And send that on to any individual in my contacts. And then that will save into the project because it will automatically add in the autofile address for the project. And I can just choose to send that on to the individual. I'm actually going to cancel that one though, rather than sending and keeping that record. Now, when I'm finished and I close, it will allow me to save the markup. So I'll choose to save. It saves it associated with that drawing on my device, so I can then go back to my markups by selecting on saved markups, and it will show me a list of any prior markups that I've had on those drawings. And again, I can use those in any format that I want. So that is the Plans app for document control, record documents, and a very useful tool. I'd like to take any questions that you have. I think I've managed to cover everything. Just in summary, I'll go back just to check as we've gone through. So we've looked at how to create and issue record documents, how to revise those record documents, how to use the document register report, how those record documents are seen on InfoExchange, and using the Plans mobile app. So any questions at this point? That will conclude our Milestone 5 for document control and the Plans app. I'll give you a moment for any questions, and I just want to thank you all for attending. And I'll go ahead and stop the recording now.